إننا ما نتعلم التعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير والحق والتمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله ابتغاء مرضات الله وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a praise that's worthy of a beneficent bestower of bounties and mercies, and we ask our Lord Most High to send copious and unlimited and eternal blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet Sayyidina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd. قال المؤلف رحمه الله رضي الله عنه وعنكم نفعنا به وبكم. He says, وإذا وصلت إليك عين تعلم أو تظن بعلامة ظاهرة أنها حرام أو شبهة فلا تتوقف عن ردها وإن وصلت إليك من يد أصلح الصالحين. Hajj, sorry, my bad.
Is it secondly? Is that where we are?
No, just a little bit before that, maybe a sentence or so.
If any object.
If any object reaches you that you know or suspect from its appearance to be illicit or suspect, then do not hesitate to refuse it, even if given to you by the most virtuous of men.
Alright, so this is a continuation of the three types of categories, the three types of people, the three types of product, the three types of money, whatever that we're involved with in our daily life. So who can remember the first one? What's the first type that the Imam mentioned?
A person who doesn't investigate things properly.
Okay, so that's one of the types, yeah. So, explain to us what that is. You said it, so you can explain it.
So
Yeah.
from that stemmed like three other things. So the first one was you trust that person.
Okay, so that's what I mean. So that's the first category, the first type of person. Tell us about the first type of person.
Okay, so if you get like looking for something, I need to go eat at the house, or you were dealing with them, so you trust them wholeheartedly. You know, like what they earn is halal, how they purchase is halal.
How do you know that?
Because you know them.
How do you know them? How do you know, like, I might know someone.
You've asked.
So you've made your investigations,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
None. Yep.
So that's the first one.
Okay, who can tell me the second one?
The second one is you don't know the person, you don't know if they're good or if you don't know the bad. Yeah, so that's when you have to make your investigation.
Alright, well that's one of them. That's the third one. Afwan, you're right, that's the second one. And the third one? So the second one is you're not sure, or some of their money comes from halal, some of their money comes from other than halal. You're not sure 100%. So in that situation, you have to make your investigations. Okay, it's not about what I think, what I heard, as we said before. It's about facts. It's about evidence that holds up in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the third one?
Is that it's not the bad? Like you know
Someone else, if you don't mind, thanks.
If you know 100% that it's not halal.
Right? So what do you do if you know the person, either their money's from haram?
You don't want to accept like the gifts that you do.
Alright, so basically you have to keep away from that individual.
through wisdom. Through wisdom.
Well, look, firstly, before you get there, it's halal, straight halal and haram. What's halal? What's haram? What's a command of Allah in terms of doing it permissibly, and a command of Allah in terms of that's sanctified, it's haram, you can't do it. So that's the first instance. And then the wisdom comes into it when you want to seek out, when you're making your investigations. How do you talk to that individual? How do you find out? Etc., etc., etc. So it's the actual way that you do it is the wisdom, but the investigation deals with the illicit and the illicit. Alright, so this is the last part of it. The Imam says that if something comes to you, aynun, so aynun is an actual thing, an object. It comes to you and you know for a fact, or you have a doubt. And then what he says, وَتُظُنْ بِعَلَامَةٍ ظَاهِرَةٍ. What does he say in English?
Suspect from experiences.
It's a bit more than that, right? It's either haram, you know that it's haram, right, or it's doubtful, and you've got an outward evidence, alama zahira. So it's not like you're looking into this meat and it looks like it's halal. It's not like that. It's you've made your investigations, you've spoken to the butcher, spoken to the abattoir, whatever it is that you've done, checked out the truck that brings, the delivery truck that brings, whatever it is, or you've spoken to someone who's in the industry, who knows what's going on, And be careful about speaking to people in the industry. Make sure they don't have a conflict of interest. Because if they work for another butcher, it's not in their interest to tell you that butcher's a good butcher. And I went through that. I've experienced it myself many times, where butchers talk bad about the other butchers because it's good for business. Unfortunately, misfortunately. Right? So it's not an easy standard. Don't think it's like, oh yeah, that's it, I asked so-and-so and that's, no. You've got to make proper, you've got to dedicate your time to it. You've got to dedicate part of your life to it so your life can be halal, inshaAllah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, if you just go there and someone says halal, and if you don't have a sign, then it's halal in that sense. But if they tell you, oh, like, oh yeah, that's halal, whatever, where do you get your meat from, or where do you get your thing from, and they tell you a butcher that you know is bodgy, then alright, that's one thing, it's a shubha. There's something that's doubtful. But if they tell you that it's somewhere, you know where it's from, and it's okay, then Bismillah, tawakkalna ala Allah. Okay? So it's got to be like outward evidence, a clear, basically, evidence. Otherwise you can't just, oh, I feel that way, I felt that way. So if it's a gift, then return it. One of the mashayikh, one of the finance people, the Islamic finance groups, they sent him some ajwa dates, and he returned them. So look, that's all right. But people are going to ask me about whether you guys are halal or haram, and if I take it, then it becomes a conflict of interest. Or every time someone asks him, he's got to tell them, yeah, I took dates from these people, but they were right to do business with. So that's the wara. That's the scrupulousness that we have to maintain in our lives to ensure that, inshallah azza wa jalla, we stay away from haram. And so even if it was given to you by the most pious of pious people, what does it say in English? Aslah as-salihin.
From the most virtuous of men.
Right? From the most virtuous of people, if it came to you, it says aslah as-salihin. So in Arabic, it doesn't say salihat as well, but it's both, either man or a woman. So even if the thing reached you, that person may not know. But you've made your investigations. You've done what you need to do. And so, for example, like when you go to Makkah and Medina, all the foods there, all the the fast food, the McDonald's and Burger King and Pizza Hut and Kentucky and all that stuff's there. But if you're not from the area, you don't know. So when you go, you have to ask if it's baladi. Is it from, or mahalli they say, one or the other, meaning from, is it from here? Oh, it's from Brazil. Oh, it's from France. Oh, it's from somewhere. Sometimes Australia as well. So you got to make that decision about what type of food you're going to eat. What standards are they, make you. Because when we found out the chicken when we were in Yemen was from Brazil, we asked this. Someone had a friend in Brazil who was a Muslim, wrote him an email. They said we're Muslims and we don't. There's not one halal slaughterhouse in Brazil. How does that work out? Don't know. And then the different countries have different regulations. The South African Maulanas, the ulama from South Africa, they want that the container is shut and they've got their own, it's like a metal lock that goes on it, and they don't want anyone to open it. They have their different standards. Other countries just, don't worry, whatever, it's halal, it's halal. Take it and go. So you got to know these things. If you really want to be certain about what goes into your mouth and your ibadah, either you do it yourself, or you know someone who's very trustworthy that won't, deviate, or you got to make those investigations to ensure, or vegetarian, unless you're going to eat fish or something like that. It's a choice. That's an option. It's hard to find. Even fish, you got to watch out with the mercury levels in fish and things like that. You have to be a biochemist almost these days just to put the right thing into your stomach, unless you grow it yourself. That's pretty much the only way around it. So this is wara. This is wara. And the Imam goes on, he says, Wal amru thani. So the first instance is finding out the people you're dealing with. The second instance is the type of dealing itself. He says, والأمر الثاني عدم الاحتراز من المعاملات الفاسدة وطريق الخلاص أو الخلاصة أن تجتنب جميع البيوع الفاسدة والمكروهة فلا تبيع ولا تشتري إلا Okay, that's enough up to مكروهة. Hajj?
Secondly, they do not safeguard themselves against invalid transactions. This safeguarding is effected by avoiding all invalid and discouraged kinds of transactions.
So, look, it's a little bit different. Al-Bayu' al-Fasida, in the Sharia, there's a difference between invalid is batil. So there's a difference in the shara between fasid and batil. We should like discuss it because it's a bit like if you haven't studied the Sharia, it's a bit confusing. In other words, fiqh of what's halal and what's haram. Alright, we've got batila, or batila, batil. And then we've got fasid. Alright, so batil is void. They're invalid or void. So basically, that's a contract or an agreement or some sort of a deed that in its essence it's missing it's quite technical legal stuff, but it's missing the components that make up a contract: offer, acceptance, the subject matter, the meeting of the minds. These are these things. So that means that when they went off and made the deal, the deal was never in essence a correct deal, right? So let's give an example. You went to the car yard and you saw the car. It's a Volvo, right? And then when they made the contract, it's for a Toyota. Batil in its essence because the subject matter isn't defined. The subject of the contract being the vehicle. No? The Volvo in particular, mashallah. Alright? So that's a batil, a void. Fasid, it's still a sahih contract. So it's a valid contract. So this means the components this is a really simplified, very simplified. It's a lot more complex, but just so you get the deal. The components of the contract are incomplete. Okay, here the components Alright, so a fasid it's a valid contract, okay, and the components of the contract are correct. So that's the offer, and acceptance, and the other different components. The subject matter's got to be there, and the meeting of the minds has to be there. Alright, so meeting of the minds means they're talking about the same thing. I make an offer to sell a Volvo, you accept the offer to buy a Toyota. Okay, the meeting of the minds isn't there, correlation, there's no correlation. Subject matter's there, the offer's there, acceptance there, it's not there. Or I say to you, I'm going to sell you those pigeons flying over there. What pigeons? Are they flying? They're not definable. You with me? Until they land and we see what they're like, we can't define it. Okay? I can sell it by description. Okay, I'm going to sell you a table. It's made of this kind of wood. It's this high. It's got this kind of legs. Here's 10 pictures of it. That's okay. It's definable as a table. If it comes looking different, say, wait a minute, this isn't it. Okay, you with me? Yeah? Yep. Okay? Al-Aqd al-Fasid or al-Fasida is a contract that the components are correct. Yep, it was a Volvo. Yep. But generally, the subject matter is haram. Okay? So what's the subject of the other contract that we had? You're the one who said it. Okay? The subject matter is a Volvo. Say if it was a pig, when I was a billah. Okay? Offer, here's the pig, whatever, it's a big pig. Pigs are huge, by the way. They're like from there to here, the big ones. Massive pig, when I was a billah. Oh, you want to buy it? Yeah, I want to buy it. How much will you give for it? Oh, whatever, $1,000, whatever. Yes, I accept for 1,000. Yes, I sold for 1,000. Is this the pig? Yes, that's the pig. Are all the components of the contract taken care of? Yes. Okay, so it's a sahih contract. But it's haram. The subject matter is haram, so it's fasid. Yeah?
The other one's halal, but the subject matter is
No, the other one there's no contract at all. Why?
because it's not right.
Right, okay, because you wanted to buy a Volvo and I sold you a Toyota. Or I didn't say the offer and acceptance properly. Or the subject matter is undefinable. The Volvo, oh yeah, I got a Volvo. That's all I said to you. Or I got a car. I got a vehicle, even worse. A vehicle, that could be a scooter. You know, or it could be a ship. It's not definable. So it's one of the components of the contract that for a valid contract is missing. So there's no contract. No.
So fasid is always something haram.
Yeah, generally. Like I said, it's very simplified. It's a very vast area, but I'm just making it simplified so we don't miss the point. Okay?
Even generally.
Now?
What you said generally, so it can be from something halal.
Look, I'm just saying there's other ways the contract can be fasid. But I don't want to go, because then we're just going to do it like, you got
Lots
to
of contracts.
study contracts and it's not going to take us for a long time, you know? You guys will all be married and I'll have grandchildren, inshallah. So we can't go that long. You know what I mean? So I'm just giving you the basics of it so you know. And the things that you may or may not come across. So look, let's say it's a contract for the purchase of a camera. But inside it is interest-bearing part of it. Part of it's interest. What's that kind of a contract?
Fasid.
Right? Why is it fasid?
Not haram.
Okay? So you get in the idea. So it's a sahih contract. So then maybe we should put sahih. Sorry about the angle. Anyway, sahih is a totally valid contract.
So when you're buying a house, it's fasid.
Why?
Because it's interest involved.
Okay. If you're using a bank or whatever, yeah, that'll be the case. So that's the difference. Alright, so normally there's a haram component to the deal. Okay? There's something haram, like someone's already married, or they don't, a woman's already married, she does a contract, it's fasid. Now that would be batil because it doesn't fulfill one of the conditions. The example of a married one would be, again, we're not sure who the bride is. Oh, I'll marry you my daughter. He's got 5 daughters. Which one of the daughters have you bought? No.
Were you doing fasid or were you doing batil?
No, that's batil. If you don't know who the subject matter is, there's batil.
What about if, like, for marriage, if you don't give the mahram, you know, like you're married and everything, but you know how you were saying before, like you should give the agreed amount?
No, it doesn't change it.
Is that fasid?
No, it's not fasid. It's still a sahih contract, but you're just delaying to pay the...
A Muslim man marrying a non-Muslim. A Muslim man marrying a non-Muslim.
Muslim woman.
Marrying a non-Muslim man.
Yeah, that would be same. Like if it's sahih, the thing is, the conditions aren't met, so it'll still be batil.
Still built in, yeah.
Wherever the conditions aren't met, then it's batil. Where the conditions are met, but the subject matter, there's an issue with the subject matter, then that's where it would come in. No.
Wasn't Asiyah married to Fir'aun, who was...
That's a different time, different place.
Okay.
And again, if she's, whatever, that's haram, but it doesn't, she's doing something haram, but it doesn't affect, who she is as a Muslim. Okay, so generally for us to keep it easy, the fasid contract has some haram component to it. It's a sahih contract. You go and you get witnesses and it's all written properly and everything else, but there's part of the subject matter is haram, or the actual nature of the agreement itself is haram. Okay, so this has a haram component. So that's very, very simplified. It's very simplified, but just so you get the idea, so you're careful when when you're doing deals and things. And it's relevant for the next part about riba, because the next part the Shaykh talks about riba. So if we don't understand this part, or the Imam talks about riba. So if we don't understand this part, then we can't really get the rest of the gist of it. Do you understand that? Alright, and then he says, البيوع الفاسدة والمكروهة. What's the type of income that's makruh? Is if you get a commission. Getting money off a commission is makruh. It's sahih. It's fine to do it, but it's makruh because the income. What are you doing to get an income?
Vested interests.
Basically nothing. All you're doing is recommending or whatever it might be. So if you're getting a commission of someone else's work, like a real estate agent takes a commission for the house they sell, that's different because they're taking it directly. It's a percentage of the value of the house, but they're taking it directly for the work they do. But a situation where, for example, back in the day, they wanted us to refer mortgages. So if you referred someone to a mortgage broker and they signed the deal, they give you $500 or $1,000. What did we do? Nothing. So it's halal to take that money, but wara, because it's a makruh transaction, to take something for not really doing anything, it's makruh to do that. So it's something that one should stay away from if they want to have wara. It's not haram, but to have wara, one should stay away from it.
And by neither selling or buying except by valid contract.
Alright? فلا تبيع ولا تشتري إلا بصيغة صحيحة ولا بأس بالمعاطاة في المحقرات. واجتنب. Oh, that's later. Okay, yep. So he says, the Imam after that, he says, make sure that the contract that you have is correct. So the sigha is the offer and acceptance. Now, really, shar'an, the offer is that the person, you come and you say, oh, how much is this thing? The phone, whatever, the camera. And then someone said, the person selling it say, oh, I will sell it to you for, whatever, $500. And then you would say, I purchased the camera from you for $500. That's the correct way to do it, Islamically speaking. And the Shafi'iyya, it's quite strict. And Abu Hanifa, it's a lot easier. So things like going to the vending machine or using your credit card, or on the internet, all those things, strictly speaking, and the Shafi'iyya, remember Shafi'i, they would be not valid transactions. But there's also a component of urf, meaning what's customary. So it's become customary now. You don't have to type things anymore. You just tap your card and that's it. Off you go. So there's a component of urf, which Imam Abu Hanifa relies a lot upon, a lot more than Imam Shafi'i, which would save all of us from those types of transactions, because the whole point of the transaction is that there's no doubt about the subject matter and the price. That was the other thing, part of the contract is the price, the consideration they call it. So in the old days, I bought, I showed, well, how much was it? We don't know, but most things these days have got the labels on it, and it comes up on the screen, and you know what you're getting yourself in for, and you can back out. So it's a little bit different than it was back then. Some of the scholars say, look, as long as the subject matter is there, the fact that they've got the product on display is an offer. Legally, it's called an offer to treat, so it's not even really an offer. But some scholars say offer to treat means I'm offering it to sell, but so I'm generally offering it to sell. But where's the specific person who's accepting my offer? So that's why it's called an offer to treat. So, like I said, it's pretty dry, it's legalistic stuff, but somewhere along the line, you have to learn these things. Somewhere along the line, you have to study contracts so that you know what contracts are sahih, what are fasid, and what are batil. Okay? So, need to be a bit careful there. وَلَا بَأْسَ بِالْمُعَاطَى. You didn't read that part. فِي الْمُحَقَّرَاتِ محقرات.
There is, however, no harm in contractless transactions involving insignificant things.
Right? So that's, you're buying chewing gum, you're buying things. Insignificant means they don't have much value, basically. So in that situation, going to the vending machine, I suppose, and getting out a pack of chips or water or whatever, it's not a big deal. So in that situation, he says it's permissible. Then he goes on, he says, وَاجْتَنِبَ الْغِشْ وَالْكَذِبْ وَالْحَلْفِ على السلع ولا تكتم عيبا في سلعتك لو اطلع عليه المشتري لم يشتريها بذلك الثمن.
Avoid cheating, lying, and making oaths concerning any merchandise. Do not hide a defect in your merchandise which if seen by the buyer would prevent him from paying the same price.
Alright? So that's where real wara comes into it. That's where wara is exemplified in one's life. You can't ghish. So you can't, for example, this is what happened in Sydney, when people were buying cars from the auctions. They were already they'd already been damaged, and they were buying them and repairing them in a terrible way. A car split in half on the either bridge, and instead of fixing up the panels, they just put some sort of a putty over it and they spray over it. So all that's ghish. The Prophet said, "Man ghashana laysa minna." Whoever deceives Muslims, whoever deceives, person deceives others, they're not from us. They're not from the ummah, or not from the people of the Prophet of Allah. So it's a form of khiyana. It's a form of treachery. And as we know that the mu'min, as the Prophet said, ﷺ, any quality could be attributed to the believer except two things: lying and treachery, and khiyana, kadhib al-khiyana. So it's not from, and especially if one's earning their livelihood from that way, and their sustenance, they're sustaining their body, they're sustaining their families, they're sustaining their loved ones in that way. So it's something that we should be extraordinarily careful of in our buying. Like, on the internet, you're selling something and you don't say what's going on with it. It's not part of what a Muslim's about. Wal kadhib, plain lying. How many times does it happen? And basically, when it comes to buying and selling, in every other type of dealing you have with a believer, I mean, we've done this before. What are the three types of things that you have su'at dhan with? That you don't give the person the benefit of the doubt. You're kidding me. How many times have we talked about it?
Leadership? Is leadership one of them, or in power?
Kind of. I know you know. Three things that you don't give people the benefit of the doubt. What is it? Business transactions is one. Marriage, we've talked about this how many times, haven't we?
Yes.
Have we or not? So marriage, if you're going to marry someone, just someone comes to you, like, oh, I'm a good bloke, no worries, let's get married. Oh, she's a top chick, let's get married. It's not how it works. You've got to find out who the person is and who you take your knowledge from. You don't just go on the internet and, find someone, or just rock up to any class and don't know who you're dealing with. You have to know the person you're dealing with. Are they really trained? Do they have akhlaq? Do they have some connection with Allah Azza wa Jal? Alright? So, that's why when someone starts telling you, furfies as they call them, lies, or porky pies, and that's it. You've got to make the investigations to find out, are they telling the truth? Is this product, and how many fake watches and fake phones and fake this and fake that are out there? So, Muslims, we don't lie when we sell our products. We tell in the next parties, and how about, wallahi, I bought it for this much. Wallahi, I bought it for this much. Last time we were in the souk and we were buying something, and then the guy goes, I'll give it to you for whatever. Wallahi, that's cost price. I said, this guy's a liar straight away. I didn't ask you to swear. And we went around the corner to another guy, and he was selling it cheaper than his cost price. It was exactly the same product. He's a liar. SubhanAllah. So we don't do that. And nor do we say, wallahi. Why are you saying wallahi? You want people to believe you. There's no need. There's no barakah in selling something that one swears upon. وَلَا تَكْتُمْ عَيْبًا. So also, if the product that you're selling, the car, whatever, if it's got something wrong with it, you have to tell people. Because the value of the product that you're selling is determined by the nature of that product. Alright, a mobile, what is it, an iPhone 6, let's say for example, Plus or S or whatever it is worth, let's say $1,000. But if it's got a broken screen, how much is it worth? 700? 600? Whatever, $600. But if the software is inside it is ruined, how much is it worth? Less. What if it's dropped in water? It's fine, looks fine. How much is it worth? Whatever, not much. So everything is according to the quality of it, the value of it. So Imam is saying that don't tell people that it's worth what it's not, worth because of some fault with it. If it's got a fault, say it. And like we find it weird, you're looking for a car and then someone says, oh, the car's really nice, but it's got a clang in the thing and it might need a new gearbox and whatever else. And we're like, no, it's too much work. But the guy's just being honest. Other cars have probably worse, but no one's saying it. So you have to be, especially if somebody asks you, especially if someone says, oh, does this car have any faults? You're a goner. Oh, I know these kind of cars. These cars, for example, the suspension always goes on this type of car. How's the suspension in this car? And that's wobbly. Oh, you have to say. Unless you want to sell the car like this or the product. Listen, there it is. Have a look at it. Make up your own mind. I don't know. That's another way you can do it. I don't know. There it is. It's up to you. Make your offer and go. But I don't know much about. That's if you don't know much about the car. If it's not your car. But if you know everything about it, you can't say that. It's a lie. So if you don't know much about it, say, look, I'm not a mechanic. You know, it's been running okay. You have a look at it. Get someone to come and check it for you. Okay, then he says. So that's pretty straightforward, is it not? It says, وَاحْذَرْ كُلَّ الْحَذْرِ مِنَ الْمُعَامَلَاتِ بِالرِّبَا فَإِنَّهُ مِنَ الْكَبَائِرِ قال الله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله قد لعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم آكل الربا ومأكوله وكاتبه وشاهده.
Beware greatly of usury, for it is one of the major sins. God the Exalted has said, O you who believe, fear God and renounce what remains due to you from usury. If you are truly believers, and if you do not them be warned of war against you from God and His Messenger. And the Messenger of God, may blessings and peace be upon him, curse the takers of usury.
Yep.
His client, clerk and witness.
Alright. So this is the big doozy really. There's 2 times when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares war. When is those 2 times? Who knows?
Interest.
One is interest. Yep. When's the other one? What's the other one? Oh, you know.
Oh, okay. No, it's not.
There's 2 times. One's in Hadith Qudsi, one's in the Qur'an.
Oh, when you take partners with God, no.
When someone man aadali waliyan adantahu bil harb. So whoever takes a wali of Allah, a friend of Allah, is like they become enemies towards them. There's enmity between them, and they try and bring that person down, whatever, because they're the people that lead people to Allah. And then, so they're the people, the awliya of Allah Azza wa Jal, they're the people that allow people to be enslaved to Allah. The people that take riba and give riba and work with riba, what do they enslave people to? Other people. Right? That's, if you want to cut, there's a lot of reasoning in all these things, but that's the base of it. The wali of Allah, what's the wali of Allah? Everyone's got a job as a wali. Their main role is they either do Allah's work by doing what they have to do, or they do Allah's work by bringing people to Allah. Yeah? And then riba and usury is what? It's in this, like, people are waking up now. If you change what you watch on and what you subscribe to or whatever, like on Facebook, you'll see people are waking up throughout the world. They're realizing it's slavery. They're realizing that when someone is owed money and it's in compound interest and there's fractional banking and all these things, then they're making money out of nothing. And it's enslaving people because they've got no choice. Once they get into the system, once they have the house, once they sign the contract, they're basically gone.
That's usury.
That's usury, which is what it is. Interest is what we're talking about. Interest and usury, it's the same, just different words for the same thing. Usury is the old English word. Interest is just the new word they use now. Right? And that's why there's the declaration of war. One is enslaving people for people. You are slaves of Allah, servants, whatever, the ibadullah. But it's slavery. Economic. And then from economic to other types of and forms of slavery. Then the other one is, these people, the awliya, their job is to take people away from ibadat al-ibad, to worshipping humans or whatever they worship, to ibadat rabb al-ibad, to worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the end. There's a lot of ins and outs, but that's the basic 2 things. So, Allah says, yeah, you want to enslave my servants? Allah and His Prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam, declare war. And that's why, in my view, and in the view of anyone who's on the path of wara, that's why it's such a deadly thing. What type of aqd is riba? A ribawi aqd of those 3. Why is it batil?
Did you say, which one did you say?
I'm asking, why is it fasid?
Fasid is interest involved.
What do you say, batil?
Because interest Oh, sorry, that's fasid.
Fasid.
Yeah.
Alright? So it's fasid. Because the contract is sahih and everything's sahih,
Yeah.
what's the subject matter?
Interest.
What's the subject matter? The house, mashallah. Alright? The subject is the house. Halal. But what's involved in that? So a contract to kill someone. Sahih contract, but it's haram to kill someone. So the subject matter. Alright? So that's what's involved in that one. But these ones are fasid. You with me? It's fasid because it's sahih contract. They sat down, they read the contract, offer and acceptance, consideration, the money, the subject is alright, they agree it's this house here, whatever it might be. But so everything's fine, but they're saying, well, when you start paying back, give me some more. Because I'm not happy with what you're giving me. So it's fasid. So now stop writing for a sec and just bear with me.
Wouldn't they show the amount of interest on the contract as well?
It doesn't matter, it's sahih contract. Even if they have to show it, but it's still a contract is sahih. So what happened was, in the time of the Prophet of Allah, so you know the deal. Because there's no point going off half-cocked, or like it means half-cocked in a gun. Right? It's no, or whatever it might be. Okay? There's no point going off in a huff and a tiff and whatever. So when who was the last person to make hijrah from, anyone know this, from Mecca to Medina? You know? It's the last person. Sayyidina al-Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet of Allah. He was a big shot in Mecca. So like I said, just focus, don't write anything. Alright? Just so you understand what's going on with this whole riba thing, and so you can work it out for yourself what you want to do. Alright? Just because it's my viewpoint doesn't mean you should follow that viewpoint. You should follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you agree to, what you think is fair and good and necessary for you and your situation between you and Allah. Your job, my job is to take it to Allah, and your job is to go from there once that happens, inshallah. So, he was the last person to make hijrah. What kind of contracts did he have in Mecca? He had plenty of ribawi contracts, because it was what they call dar al-kufr, or dar al-harb they even call it, but it's dar al-kufr. Okay? So, when did the verse came down? And the Prophet said all the contracts are haram? When Sayyidina al-Abbas made hijrah from Mecca to Medina. Because what's Medina? Islamic governance. Can't say state anymore. Islamic governance. Right? There's Islamic governance. So, in particular the Hanafi scholars said that it's a aqd fasid in its instance, in its essence, it's a aqd fasid. And they say that the uqud al-fasida, the contracts that are valid contracts but have some problem in terms of haram, are sahih in dar al-kufr. Does that make them valid in dar al-kufr?
Okay.
Why? Because that's what happened to Sayyidina al-Abbas, Allahumma anhu, who is the uncle of the Prophet of Allah. So this is the reasoning why the scholars come and say that in Australia, in different places, riba is permissible because it's aqd fasid. You got both the avenues, you choose whichever one you want. And there are a plethora of other examples out there. But that's in simplistic terms, that's what it is. Whether it's a declaration of harb. When a person does zina, what's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Allah will forgive him. Drink alcohol, Allah will forgive him. Etc., etc. Allah will forgive him. Except shirk with Allah, and even Allah says you're going to cop it. But this is a declaration of war. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So then the ulama of wara, so what I just described to you is shut up. That's what the hukm is. You're entitled to go with it. There's no problem whatsoever. If you feel comfortable, your husband, wife, whatever, other partner, mum, dad, whatever, feel comfortable, and you feel good about it, go for it. Okay, what do the ulama of wara say about that ruling about uqud al-fasida, the fasid contracts? They say, no, they don't say that. They say, because they're ulama, they don't follow the nufus. And they're the ulama, the rabbaniyun, they're the scholars of the divinity. Okay? They say that, when could you do that? So if you eat haram meat, if you eat a dead animal, if you eat pork, Allah says, don't worry. غير باغٍ. غير باغٍ ولا عادٍ. Thank you. Well, لا باغٍ, so باغٍ means they don't want it. I don't want to eat pork, I want to eat this. ولا عادٍ, they're not constantly doing it out of habit force, okay? Allah forgives them. So that's what they say, the ulama. They say that if a person is in a situation where they would eat a dead animal, they're desperate, they give the same comparison financially speaking. This is the ulama of wara about shara. Okay? So they say, if you want to have wara in that question of should I get a ribawi contract or not. So this is still in sharia and in wara, both together. How desperate am I? That's the question. That's the question. Am I going to be chucked on the street? Whatever. If it's a, maybe not life or death, we're not going that far down the thing, but a situation of, you know, I'm going to be disgraced and my family haven't got a place to live and all that, then I can take a ribawi contract. What's the situation in Australia? The situation is we're 500, 600,000 people. Surely we can get some sort of a mutual or some sort of a something or other happening, you know, go somewhere overseas. The house prices are very expensive in Australia, and start our own sort of a something, I don't know. But until that's the case, then things like, you know, I don't want to mention names, there are organisations out there doing things. Again, make your own investigations. Make your own. But I'm not talking about Islamic organisations, I'm talking about going to the bank and taking your money. That's what the ulama say. So there's wara, stay away from it. There's shara, it's okay. And there's wara in the shara, which is how desperate are you? What's the necessity basically? And that's it. Simple as that. And then you work out the rest for yourself. So we don't go around frowning on people that have done, you know, that have taken riba and all these things, whatever. But the person who takes riba shouldn't be a hero. And we've spoken about this many times in class before. I was forced to go eat, you know, like this guy getting a chicken out of the trash pile, or out of, you know, in the old days, I don't know if they do anymore. In the old days, the butcher once a week or once every few days, this big truck would pull up, and they'd throw all their bones on top of it, and they, I don't know, would probably make gelatine or something out of it. I don't know what they used to do. I don't know if that still happens anymore. But it's like eating those bones, making a soup and saying, look how good my soup. What are you talking about? So if a person is forced to take riba, firstly, they shouldn't be talking about it. And secondly, if they've got a $5 million house, what riba are you talking about? Riba is for sitra. So you get a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house in somewhere like Maryland or wherever it might be. You're not going to buy a $10 million house, and probably can't even get it for $10 million double bay, but whatever, somewhere like that. That's not what it's for. That's not what it's for. It's for basic necessities when a person needs it. Alright, this brother was for you. You had a question?
No.
When you're saying like basic necessities, so it's not, for example, let's just say you've got kids or whatever, and it's an inconvenience every 2-3 years, you know, to move because you're constantly. Are we talking that? Is that desperate?
Everyone's got to work it out for themselves. Either they go speak to the mufti or speak to someone who's learned and work it out, because everyone's situation is different. But the thing is that what do people do? This is what they do with their houses. They get a loan, right? And they've got these drawdown accounts and credit accounts, and which means any time you want, if you, let's say for example you've paid 500,000 on your loan, you've still got 200,000 to go. They give you that 500 like it's in your savings account. So what are they doing? They're going on holidays. What are you talking about? That's not it. And if you've got it and you have to pay, you pay it off. You don't go every year to Lebanon and every year to Hajj and every year to Umrah and every year the latest cars. What are you talking about? You're in mashbuh. It's a aqd fasid. And Abu Hanifa pretty much, he's the only one that says that. So you're in not the best of territory, even if it's in Sharia. It's halal, right? It's halal. But it's not the best situation to be in. So the point is, if you're a person who has some sort of relationship with Allah, you want to pay that off as soon as you can and get out of it as soon as you can, even if you have to borrow off people and then pay the people back without interest. So the concern of the individual in that situation should be almighty. You know, buying the best clothes and having the best food and the best. No. What are you talking about? You're in a situation of desperation. You're in a situation of necessity, irrespective. You have got a rukhsa. It's a dispensation. It's not the main part. And be careful of the haram. You never know. I'm not saying that is the case, but that's saying they should play in the mind of the individual who's involved in that. That's the state of the person. That's what we're talking about. The wara, the connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the basis of ribawi transactions in Australia. There's a lot of things said here and there. There's istid'af and all these things. We shouldn't be disenfranchised. There's a lot of branching off from that. You make your own investment, but that's the basic. totally just stay away from it, or it's aqud fasida. That's why I wanted to explain this to you as well. So when it came to riba, you won't get confused, and don't worry about what anyone else says. This is it. This is the basic part of it. Yeah, there's a lot of branching off. That's fine, but the basic element. Once you know these three things, you know what happened to Sayyidina Abbas, and you know what the Abu Hanifa says from that, because Madhab Abu Hanifa is based on what Ibn Abbas did mainly. Khalas, alhamdulillah, it's okay. So I don't want you to look down on people or talk bad about people. All right, if the person's got a loan, they're putting granny flats, and then you got to, it's a different story. But if they're working conscientiously to pay off their debt so they can get out of riba, they're praying, they're saying, Ya Allah, forgive me. They're making dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows some of the believers to come together and make some sort of an Islamic building society or something. Or that's a different scenario. But if someone, they got it and then, kayfeen, مرتاحين على الآخر, they're loving life, relaxed, the latest furniture, the latest TV. What riba, man? What riba? Now.
What exactly do you mean by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares war on?
It means what happens when someone declares war on someone or a country declares that it's a destruction.
As in, what? I don't really understand what you're referring to when you're
Well,
saying.
that's what Allah says in the Qur'an. So it's not my words, it's the words of Allah. That Allah declares war
On the people
who, and the rest of it are in there. So he says, the hadith, the prophetic tradition, says, وَلَقَدْ لَعَنَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. Then there's a curse, the Prophet cursed these people, and they're four people. آكل الربا, the one who eats it. وَمَأْكُولُ, the one who gives it. وَكَاتِبُ, the one that writes the contract for riba. And the one who witnesses the contract. So that's why as a lawyer, I don't do transactions for houses, because you have to witness mortgage contract deeds. I don't do it. You ever seen it? Go and find a mortgage contract on the internet. Find a mortgage contract on the internet. Have a read of it. They're like 50, 60 pages. You can't paint the wall. And the word mortgage, haven't we discussed this in class? Who knows what the word mortgage means? That's mort, yeah? And what about gauge, the second part?
Chain?
Okay, to gauge someone, to bind. So it's death bound, basically. The point is they keep you in riba until you die. That's the point. That's why it's called a mortgage. That's a Latin word. Look it up in your dictionary.com. You'll find it in
Osmond.
Death.
Yeah, like mortuary, mortal, all those comes from the base of that word. So that's enough for today, all right? But our deen is not a deen of stupidity. Our deen is not a deen of emotion in that way. Our emotion is for the Prophet of Allah. That's who we love. Our emotion is for Allah Azza wa Jal. That's who we love. But our emotion about, leave people alone. Let them to their own devices. You're not their judge. Even Allah said to the Prophet, Lasta alayhim bi musaytir. You're not the overbearing of the people, he said to the Prophet. So don't get in that situation. Leave people, make excuses for people. Now you've got a reason to make an excuse. And if you see them living lavish, whatever, maybe they've paid off their house. You don't know. Alright, I'm just giving you the insides and outsides so you can understand the circumstance and apply it to your own life.
In the